Hey there, Shakers, and welcome back to another episode of Worth Your Salt, a podcast that's here to supercharge your marketing in the health and wellness space. I'm Jennifer Orechwa, StoryBrand certified coach, and over the past 2 decades, my team and I have tested, iterated, and figured out what it takes to market and grow so you don't have to. Now I'm here to help you apply the marketing systems that truly work. At Salt Marketing, we're all about helping health and wellness practitioners like you build trust, authority, and a nonstop flow of clients. So if you're ready to take your practice to the next level, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Now, if you've ever felt like your work is bigger than your current business model, or like your voice deserves a wider audience beyond just your wellness practice or your med spa, then this episode is your turning point. Today on Worth Your Salt, we're diving into what it really means to build a personal brand, one that's rooted in your values, aligned with your vision, and designed to drive serious impact. Joining me is Michael R. Hunter, serial entrepreneur, founder of Spiffy Checkouts and personalbrand.com, and the man behind some of the biggest personal brands in the world. Michael has helped creators and experts generate over $1 billion in revenue, and today he's here to show you how a personal brand can become the umbrella under which your next chapter unfolds. Whether you want to speak, write, launch a course, or collaborate with brands that share your mission, your personal brand is the key to expanding beyond your practice and doing it in a way that feels authentic, scalable, and like you're building a legacy. Michael, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
So you've worked with some of the biggest names in the world of personal branding, Oprah.com, Brendan Bouchard, Jay Shetty. How did you get started and what led you to focus so deeply on helping people build these personal brands?
Yeah, that's a great question. It goes all the way back to my first taste of entrepreneurship. I had my first taste of entrepreneurship at 17, doing a direct sales commission only role. And I qualified for the regional sales development conference. I had my first taste of motivational speakers, sales trainers, got introduced to the first personal development books I ever read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. And somewhere along the line, got introduced to Tony Robbins, and I heard that public speaking was the highest paid profession. And so I saw the impact that these people had, and I saw that they we're making a lot of money. It's the highest paid profession. And that really appealed to me. And I also heard that most people would rather, keel over than speak in front of public. And so I'm like, okay, well, if this takes, 5 years or 50 years, I can crack this code and figure this out. Like, this is a way to live a really fulfilling life, to have a big impact, to make an income and, really make a difference. And so at the time I was like 18 years old. Who's going to listen to an 18-year-old say anything, about anything about life, let alone a business or anything when I don't have any life experience. And so I had the thought process of, okay, well, if I want to do that someday, what skill do I need to learn? And it was marketing. Kind of had the sales thing dialed in a little bit. I was pretty good at that. Still room to improve, but I'm like, okay, I need to learn marketing. And so I got paid to learn marketing, and I started working with authors, speakers, coaches, thought leaders, personal brands, helping them have a big impact with their message. And that's how I got into it all.
Yeah, and before that, you built a highly successful SaaS company, Spiffy. So what mindset shifts did you have to make along the way to step fully into your own personal brand?
Yeah, so Spiffy actually was a side hustle on the side of our marketing company. We were scaling our marketing company, and we went through the natural evolution that most marketing companies go through. You first start taking on anyone and everyone that's willing to pay you, and then you slowly niche down, and then you start doing all these custom services for a lot of different people, and then you productize your service. And then we took our productized service of building out custom upsell flows in checkout experiences, and we turned it into a software product. And so my evolution as an entrepreneur started with freelancing, doing marketing services, building websites, to building an agency, and then founding a SaaS company. And today we run personalbrand.com, which is our strategic brand and agency, helping people monetize their knowledge alongside our software company, Spiffy Checkouts, that is the go-to checkout system for authors, speakers, coaches, and thought leaders.
Very nice. I hope everybody listening feels like I do right now, which this guy is the bomb. He knows all kinds of things. So you've built both product-based and personality-driven businesses. So how do those skill sets sort of go together? How do they complement each other when it comes to helping other people build a scalable personal brand?
Yeah. So, building a personal brand isn't for the faint of heart. I think especially now as consciousness is rising on the planet, back in the early 2000s, like a lot of the personal brands were built out of ego and knowing it all and having it all together, or leading with the perception that you have it all figured out. And I think social media has revealed that no one has it all figured out.
True. Yeah.
We're all figuring it out, and we all have our story. We all have our journey, and we can help someone that's earlier on the path than we are. And that's really what I view personal branding and building a personal brand business is all about. And so when it comes to building a business, I think the most important aspect is just having your hands in the trenches. You just don't know what you don't know until you actually do work and you actually have conversations with your ideal client. That's the biggest misconception, or the biggest myth, is that you hear all these $1 million launches and these people having this overnight success. And the kind of the illusion, or the pipe dream is like, oh, I just want to sit on my laptop on the beach with a margarita, making millions of dollars online, not talking to anyone. And nothing can be further from the truth. I mean, just at face value, even if you just try to take your laptop to the beach, there's not a good Wi-Fi signal there. And if there is a good Wi-Fi signal there, that's not a beach you want to be on anyways. So, it's so much of it is having conversations with people and really having that bigger mission, and meaning and purpose behind why you want to have an impact. If you're just in it to make money, there's a lot easier ways to make money. But if you are that mission driven entrepreneur, you have that vision, you have that deep desire to help people and be authentic and help people navigate obstacles that you had to overcome in your personal story, nothing is more fulfilling than building a personal brand business.
Absolutely. And like you said a minute ago, not acting like you have it all figured out, because we're all figuring it out as we go, but you might be able to inspire someone who's a little bit behind you. So you've worked with both rising stars and people we would kind of consider household names. What kind of mindset should we go into a personal brand building with? How do we get started and think about it in the right ways?
Yeah. So there's how you get started and how you scale is almost two different mindsets. When you first get started, a lot of it is just trying a lot of different things and figuring out what works. And then once you have initial success, the hardest gear to shift is realizing what got you to that level of success won't get you to the next level of success. So talk about that a little bit more concretely. In the beginning, your competitive advantage is that you're accessible. Your competitive advantage is that you're interacting with all of your customers. But you hit a point where you can't spend twice as much time with your clients. You can't spend twice as much time going to networking events. You can't spend twice as much money on Facebook ads. You can't attend twice as many masterminds. And so a gear needs to shift to really simplify and double and triple down around what's working. So the first step is to figure out what works. Once you gain traction, finding that gear to shift to then double and triple down in one very simple area to have a bigger impact. And that was one of the biggest, if there was one defining moment across my entire career working with some of the household names, it was the moment that I logged into Brendan Burchard's Infusionsoft account. I got hired on, Jeremy Abraham and myself, my business partner, we got hired on as an external CMO to hire out Brendan's first marketing team. We were marketing hire number 1 and 2 at that kind of executive level. And we logged into the account, and it was shocking how simple his marketing funnels were. We go to these marketing conferences and everything's AI driven, behavioral clicks. If they don't open this email, send them this email and all these things. And that works at some level, but it's just realizing that really marketing and business is about getting the right offer in front of the right person at the right time, deeply focusing on messaging and tailoring an offer that helps people get a result that they already want. And if you can just simplify everything down to those concepts, it really is that simple. And the tech doesn't need to be as complicated as most people make it out to be.
Amazing. I hope everybody heard that, because simplification is the key, especially when you get to scaling, because if you overcomplicate things, it gets too difficult for your team. It gets too difficult for your audience. And simplification makes such a difference. It is so powerful to hear how your journey has evolved. And it really highlights what's possible when you align your business with your values and your vision. It's amazing. I need to take a quick sponsorship break right now. But when we come back, I want to turn the focus toward my audience, wellness practitioners who have built something meaningful and are starting to feel that nudge to step into something bigger. Stay with us.
The small business juggle is real, but for every headache you have, Thrive has time-saving solutions that you can customize to work for you. So if managing it all, clients, teams, messages, and, the actual work, has you feeling a little burnt out, Thrive can help you take back control. Your time is precious. Don't waste another minute managing missed calls or messages, no matter where they come from. Thrive lets you bundle all of your communication apps into one place. Oh, and did we mention that you get a free phone line and web chat for your business? And if you're spending hours keeping up with customer info, chasing down payments and invoices, or trying to book appointments, we've got you covered. Thrive can give you back 20 hours of your life each week. And to save you even more time, Thrive can help you with marketing and promotion. No need to hire someone new or even go back to school. We make promoting your business and getting found online easy, and maybe even fun. With landing pages built in minutes, social media made simple, and enhanced local listings. Plus, we help you crunch the numbers so you can see what's working and reach the right people at the right time. So if you're ready to feel like you have it all under control, we're ready when you are. Let Thrive help you get back to doing what you love. After all, that's why you started your business to begin with. Small business runs better on Thrive. Create your free account today.
We're back here on the Worth Your Salt podcast with Michael R. Hunter of personalbrand.com. And we're talking about what it actually looks like to build a personal brand as a wellness entrepreneur and how you can begin that journey with intention. So, Michael, many of our listeners have built successful practices, and they're now asking what's next. How do you define the moment when a practitioner or someone is ready to step into building that personal brand? That's what they're all looking for. So how do you know if you're ready for this?
Yeah, so I think it ultimately comes down to just like a soul calling. I don't know of a better way to describe it. I think one of the strategic advantages you have as a wellness practitioner, assuming you have like a brick and mortar business, is you have like a solid, real business, a tangible asset that can provide a lot of stability for you to take a more long-term approach with a personal brand versus someone that's just new to the business world and they're starting with a personal brand. Like, you have income, you have team, you have assets, you have different things that you can leverage to, one, have a much bigger impact, and then two, just be a little bit more long-term oriented versus very short-sighted and trying to generate revenue right out of the gates. And so there's one of the most important aspects of building a thought leadership or business or personal brand is credibility and expertise. And as a practitioner in the wellness space, if you've built a successful brick and mortar business, you have those two things. You have client stories, you have testimonials, or you can quickly get those assets. And you have stories to tell that makes it easier to write a book to an existing customer base that you can market other products and services to. And so there's a lot of competitive advantages of that can accelerate your personal brand and help you have a much bigger impact with the success that you've already created.
I love that. And I'm really curious about what it actually means to build a personal brand today. We have worked with a lot of clients who have developed an online course or they've started their own membership, and they're all very active on social media and, they're out there and things. But how is intentionally building a personal brand different from just being active on social media?
That's a great question. This is like one of my favorite topics ever. And it is confusing because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of thought leaders and gurus that actually conflate brand with branding. They talk about them as if they're the same. And then sometimes they even talk about branding and content marketing as the same. You'll hear someone talking about, hey, build your personal brand. Here's what you need to do on Instagram. Well, building a brand is much, much bigger than just tactics on Instagram. And so the way I talk about it is that your brand isn't your logo. It's not your color schemes. It's not your headshots. It's not your social media profile. It's not your photo shoot. Those are branding. And just because you have great branding doesn't mean that you have a great brand. Your brand isn't what you say about you. It's what other people say about you. Another example of this is to kind of potentially bring this concept into view a little bit better is the concept of fish and fishing. Just because you're fishing doesn't mean you're going to catch a fish. If I'm a restaurant owner and I say I have the best cheeseburger in the entire state, but then you come to my restaurant and you eat my cheeseburger and it's terrible, my brand isn't what I say it is, it's what you say it is. And so when it comes to the concept of brand and branding, what makes a very powerful brand is when your branding is very concise, it's very powerful, and you craft language that's concise and powerful, that's easy to remember and easy to repeat, And that's where your branding equals your brand. And so your brand isn't the content marketing. It's not even your messaging, but the goal is to get really, really clear on your messaging, make sure that your products and services deliver on the promise so that people can perpetuate your message.
I love that. And I'm wondering how, particularly for wellness entrepreneurs, because we're very grounded in values. It's important. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and so someone who is in the wellness space, who owns a med spa and is actually educating and telling people the right things. How do we translate those values, things like compassion or empowerment, or really just even integrity, into brand assets that actually connect with people? So I'm thinking, if I'm building my personal brand and I want to convey those values, how do you do that as part of your personal brand?
Yeah. So this is where, kind of content and brand um, uh, are differentiated. And so when it comes to your brand, how we think about brand, and most people think about branding as like the surface layer that rests on top on the outside of your business. That's the flash and like the
Hmm.
costume or the nice clothing that your company wears. Where brand, when done at the right time, is actually a deep strategic imperative that provides a filter to differentiate distraction from opportunity. And oftentimes in business, we're really, really good at hiring people that share common values like integrity and things of this nature. And not to pick on that word specifically, but when it comes to your company brands, like some of those things should just be unspoken expectations versus a word that's in a document for your business or onboarding or on the wall or whatever. And when it comes to building a successful business, we need to be able to not just delegate tasks and train people to be effective in their role from a skill perspective, but especially as a small business owner, we need to be able to replicate quality decision making. And that's often the first bottleneck. That's a sign that your brand needs, that you need to focus on crafting your brand, is when you hire your first 5 or 10 employees and they start to go do their work and then they have a question and then they come back to you for the answer. And all of a sudden you become the bottleneck of your entire business because people need decisions for them to do their job. And you're caught between low value decision making and high value tasks that only you can do. And I equate it to parenting. I'm not yet a father, God willing, I will someday, but I have a father, and you're not there to breathe every breath for your child. You're not there to make every decision for your child. So how do you instill, or so how do you set up your children for success? You instill quality values, and it's the same thing in business. And that's how you replicate quality decision making. It's easy to delegate tasks. It's hard to delegate quality decision making. And so I would think of values as a way to replicate how you would make decisions to help ensure that everyone on your team is moving you towards your mission, your objective, and your big vision. So where that comes back to creating content that converts, that's where your messaging and how you communicate based on your values just translates into meeting people where they're at and communicating how you can help them. And so all of these things are intertwined, and there's some small nuances that separate values from content, but they are definitely all related. And that's just a little bit about how we think about those different things.
And I love your analogy about parenting. I often think there are a lot of things in business where a parenting analogy fits. Of course, our employees aren't our children, but there are a lot of things that translate in that way. So now I love that you've brought the parenting analogy into personal branding as well. But so, what are a couple of the mistakes that you've seen entrepreneurs make in they're building their personal brand, and maybe things that might pull them out of alignment with their values as they're building that personal brand?
The number one mistake is that they don't quite know where they are going, and they don't have that filter to differentiate
Mm.
opportunities from distractions. And so most of the time, that clarity is missing, or it's something where that clarity was found years ago and they just haven't looped back and updated it.
Mm.
And so when it comes to business, we know all the stats out there, the BBB or whoever does the research, publishes that most small businesses fail.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of reasons for it that running out of money, not hiring the right team members, so on and so forth. But ultimately, I think all of those different reasons that we can think about all distill back to executing against the wrong idea. And it doesn't matter whether you're a small business or you're Apple with tens of billions of dollars, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in cash and reserves. We all have limited resources, just at different levels. And it's about being very, very intentional about where we apply those resources, time, energy, money, and making sure that we are applying those resources in a direction that is going to get us where we want to go. And so not having that, when you don't have a clear filter and you don't have a clear outcome that you are looking to accomplish, everything looks like an opportunity. And so, making sure that you have that clear vision and using that as a filter to make decisions based off of is a place where it's a very simple practical step where most of the time when clients come to us, we're helping them say no to a lot of things that they're doing where we talk about it as an ROE. We hear about ROI in businesses, and there's actually a very common theme between all of our clients is that there's aspects of their business that are actually generating an ROI, but the ROE doesn't make sense. There's too much effort being applied in that aspect of their business to justify the revenue that's generating. And so how can we start saying no, simplify, and apply those efforts into something that has a much bigger impact in the world and then a much bigger income for themselves?
I love what you just said there. When you don't have clarity, everything looks like an opportunity. Like, that's profound. I mean, that's huge. I love that. I'm going to pin that to my wall for sure. And I know, and you and I have had several conversations about this in the past, but you talk a lot about freedom and you talk about impact. So, what are the steps toward building a brand that creates those things?
Yes, that's a perfect segue question based off what I was talking about. Like, one is getting clear on that destination, and then the next steps are the three steps are destination, location, and path. And so, getting clear on that vision, where are we going, so we can help have something to make decisions against, and then getting brutally honest and extremely clear about where we are at currently. We break out a thought leader business into 4 stages of a thought leader business or personal brand business. And oftentimes when we're on social media and maybe we have an interest in building a personal brand, but we hear all of these thought leaders and brands that are household names with their ads and everything, like they're teaching us what they're doing now at stage 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at stage 1 or 2 or maybe 3. And so it's really, really important about being crystal clear about where you're at now and implementing strategies that are meant for the stage that you're in. You can't implement stage 4 strategies at stage 1. And so getting crystal clear on your location helps you determine the path that's right to scale through those stages. So this is a mirror of a GPS in your phone. If all you have is the location of where you want to go and you don't have the input of where you're at, you can't carve the path to get there. And so you have to have the destination, you have to have your current location, and that's how you're able to build a path. And it's not about necessarily building the path that's the shortest distance, but there's a right path for you to get there for sure. And sometimes the scenic route is actually the most enjoyable and is actually the fastest and the way that you can get to your end destination with as much ease and with much of a guarantee that you're actually going to get there.
I love that you said that, and I'm so guilty of that, of like wanting to be at stage 4, even though you're only at stage 1, in a lot of different areas, and it pops up for me again and again. And somebody said that relative to Alex Hermosi, like you can't do what he's doing and expect it to work for you if you're not where he is, and who is other than him. So that makes a lot of sense. And I know you've helped your clients generate over $1 billion in revenue. So what are the consistent traits or strategies that you see among the most successful personal brands?
Yeah, and just to be clear on that stat, I mean, there's a lot of people that like throw out numbers like that where they're taking credit for like all of their client success over their entire lifetime, even though they just worked with them for a month. So most of that revenue is customers that are using our software platform to generate those revenues. And so we've built a tool that is really the most important aspect of a business, collecting money. And so the amount of trust and the amount of knowledge and tech and technology that goes into that aspect of a business is something that's quite complex, and is something that where, if you're going to trust a company to handle all of your payments, it's not just some fly by night company. And so with that comes a lot of insight into data and analytics, and in aggregate across the board, our highest, most successful customers in Spiffy and our biggest and best clients that we've worked with over the past 15 years, there's a few things that all of them have in common. One, they're very simple businesses. On the outside, if you just come and look at their business, it almost looks like it's too simple. They might even look like they're actually small players. Like if you didn't know their name, you would look at their website and be like, oh, like this person just helps people do this simple thing. Like there's no way they could be that successful or make that much money. But the more simple, simplicity is required for scale. Complexity helps make quick cash, but simplicity scales. So number one, common across the board is very, very simple. Keep it simple. Our natural tendency is to think that it has to be harder than it is or needs to be more complex. And so complexity can help you make quick cash in the beginning to help figure out what works, to help bring cash in the door. But as quickly as possible, simplify, simplify, simplify. The next thing is most of our clients are high 7 figures, if not 8 figures, all have a recurring revenue aspect of their business. This isn't a place to start necessarily because it is a difficult code to crack. But just know that as you scale, if you can find and unlock that recurring revenue aspect of things, community, subscription base, having a tool, software, recurring revenue is a critical component just from like an energetic standpoint too. It's like, is having that recurring revenue coming in every single month, even if it's from like retainer clients or something of that nature, just makes it easy to know that your team costs are covered, your ad costs are covered, and it allows you to play the game at just a little bit different level. And the last thing is high ticket offer that gets a result. So 3 things: simple, keep it as simple as possible. Simplicity scales. 2, recurring revenue. And then 3, having a high ticket offer that gets a raving result. That's a key aspect of scaling a big business in this industry.
Outstanding. Thank you, Michael. It's time for another quick break. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to the Worth Your Salt podcast, and today I'm talking with Michael R. Hunter of personalbrand.com about how you can build a personal brand that reflects your values, expands your influence, and becomes the gateway to greater impact, freedom, and opportunity beyond your wellness practice. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so be sure to join us over on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and let us know how you're intentionally crafting your personal brand. We're back. And so before the break, Michael, you were sharing a powerful foundation for how personal branding can be put into place, especially for wellness pros who want to grow beyond the walls of their practice. I want to talk a little bit more about how to do that, because I feel like the one thing that it's one thing to feel called to it, to build that personal brand. It's another thing entirely to kind of do it in a way that's strategic and aligned and sustainable. And so I want to dig into sort of the practical side of this, like the messaging and the visibility and the mindset shift required to really step into that next level identity. So for most of our audience who are wellness practitioners, they often wear all the hats in their business. So, they're doing 17 different things at once. So what's your advice for building a personal brand without adding more chaos to that already overstuffed burrito?
Yeah. And it's definitely a challenge. And there's, especially when your current business is very dependent on you, your time, your energy and effort. Oftentimes at the end of the day, there's just no gas left in the tank to apply energy and effort elsewhere. I can relate to this because that's how we were with our marketing agency. Like we had our marketing agency, we were, really crushing it. And my business partner and I said, hey, like we were kind of future pacing. We're like, we can't do this for the next 20 years at the capacity we're doing it. Like we were branded as the secret weapons. That's not how we branded ourselves. That's how the market branded us. And so no matter how much expectation setting that we made, no matter what our headline was on our website, no matter what, we thought it was like, oh, it's because we're project based and we would move to retainer, then we moved to hybrid. We'd like changing all these pricing models. We hire the business coach, but our brand was that we were the weapons and that we delivered every single time. And if something needed to get done, we were the people that could get it done. And so there was always last minute changes, deadlines, things getting moved around. And like, we just did it because that's what we do. And so long story short, we just knew that wasn't in the cards for the next 20 years to like raise families and do these things. And so we had to make that pivot to really transitioning from agency into a software company. And that process is not something that I would suggest to do quickly, but you need to be thoughtful about how to make that transition. So one of the key aspects of building a thought leadership business is writing a book. And so that's something that you can do in very short periods of time if you are able to carve out even just a half hour a day, a few days a week, and dedicate yourself to that. That is one key component to breaking out of that mold of the day-to-day in your business to maybe a first step would be to start getting some keynote fees, uh, land some keynote speeches. And one of the best ways to do that is write a book. So
Mm.
I would say that the most important aspect of making a transition is doing it from a place of strength, not from a place of unnecessary struggle. And so that is just an all encompassing statement. It's just like find a way based off of your current strengths. If you like writing, do writing. If you like speaking, do a podcast. If you like creating video content, do video content. Don't try to pigeonhole yourself into what someone else is doing or what someone else says it is. There's a right path for you, and it's just a matter of figuring that out and starting small, but starting strategic.
I totally feel what you're saying about, you're doing all the things and you can't, it's not sustainable. Like you're doing late nights and long hours and all those sorts of things. And you've got to figure out some way to rise above that, because you can't do it for the next 20 years. I think a lot of people feel that. So I want to go just a little bit deeper on that and talk a little bit about messaging. Because like you were saying, first step might be writing a book or speaking. So what if you don't know what your unique message is yet, but you want to make a bigger impact, but you're not entirely sure what it is that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So this is where having conversations with people, like getting an inkling of what you might be passionate about, what you might want to talk about. Maybe you distill it down to a couple different ideas. It's like grab coffee, grab virtual coffee or in person coffee, and just start having conversations with people, workshop ideas, get feedback. Um, the biggest component about messaging is being empathetic and being able to produce sensory rich language that describes their problem better than they can describe it and describes what they actually want better than they can describe it. And when you speak something that's only been inside someone's head, they immediately assume that you have the answer to that problem. And it's a very, very powerful messaging concept of being able to describe where someone's at better than they can describe it, being able to describe what they actually want better than they can describe it, and then developing a system or a path to help them go from where they're at to where they want to go. If I was to oversimplify a thought leader business, that would be it. And so at the end of the day, how do you do that authentically? You kind of look back at your journey. Maybe it took you 10 years to figure something out and you went to all the conferences and you read all the books and then you had your aha and you can help someone get that result much faster. That's a great place to start. Just like very authentically your story, your pain point, your challenge, and how can you help someone avoid that or navigate that in a much more efficient manner than you were able to.
Yeah, and it's funny as you're talking, I'm thinking of some of our clients and the ways that they approach this topic. And many of them are sort of afraid to step out from behind like the name of their company, and show up as the face of the business. And I think there's some, like you're not really necessarily hiding behind it, but when you put yourself out there, you subject yourself to, whether that's criticism or just more interaction. So what would you say to someone who's kind of, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but they're kind of afraid to step up and be the face of that business and that message?
Yeah, it's a very real thing. With our clients, we take a three-pronged approach to building a personal brand, and this is our unique differentiator in the marketplace. One, it's the brand strategy, the messaging, both written communication and visual communication, nonverbal communication. We know this on a human to human level. Like we meet someone in person, we've read this in books, where we make that half second snap subconscious judgment where we know, like, and trust this person, and everything else is just kind of, validating that initial gut feeling or subconscious feeling. Well, the same thing happens with your online brand. So we need to dial in both the visual component and the written component. So that's one leg of the three-legged stool. The next one is the business model. So it doesn't matter if we dial in the messaging and call in and create a whole new game plan of calling in higher paying, better, more clients. If the business is already operating at 110% capacity, that's not helpful. So we need to also bring in an aspect of the business into the equation to make sure that the customers are getting what they need and that it doesn't break the business for bringing in new customers. The third piece is the being, the identity, the person. Because if you have the brand dialed in, if you have the business dialed in, but you're not ready for this next level of abundance, this next level of leadership, this next level of being seen, this next level of wealth, this next level of responsibility, then you're going to delay, you're going to hesitate, and you're going to self-sabotage. And so building a personal brand and putting yourself out there is something that is not for the faint of heart. Like, you are subjecting yourself to criticism, but there is a certain level of healing that needs to take place in order to be able to do that and have the biggest impact that you need to have in the world. And we support our clients through that.
I love that. All right. So last question. If someone listening, a wellness practitioner is listening and they're ready to get started, how do they start building a personal brand rooted in impact? How can they contact you? What should they do first? Obviously write a book, but beyond that.
Yeah. And I mean, writing a book is a great place to start if you are strapped on time, because it's something where you can dedicate yourself, 30 minutes a day, and you don't have to learn a lot of new skill sets. You don't have to learn how to use a camera or edit video or all these other things. And, it really does come back to just like, what do you enjoy? The best strategy, the best tactics, the best game plan that makes complete logical sense, but is outside your skill set and outside your passion, will lose every single time to something that you're deeply fulfilled by and is within your skill set. So it's less about seeking more information and seeking something outside of yourself, but just more so doing what you know, doing what you're already good at. So to answer your question about building a brand rooted in impact, what are next steps? How can people engage with us? We actually have 3-day workshops. That is really the best next step to getting in the room with us adding value. Our services are geared towards individuals and businesses that are more established in the personal brand industry, but we have a lot of knowledge, insights, and perspectives that can help. So we have a 3-day event called Brand and Business Breakthrough. It's live in person in Phoenix. We do it 3 times a year, September, January, and May. You can go to personalbrand.com/breakthrough for more information, and just reach out to me on LinkedIn or on X or on Instagram at Michael R. Hunter.
This has been such a rich conversation, Michael. I can't thank you enough, from understanding the why behind personal branding to really unpacking how with those real actionable steps. There's so much here for wellness practitioners who are ready to step into that next level of influence and impact. And if you're listening or watching on the go, don't worry. Everything that Michael mentioned, including links to the 3-day workshop where you can learn more, all of that will be in the show notes on our website at saltmarketing.co. But before we wrap, Michael, I have a few quick fire questions for you. We call it our lightning round. So are you up for this? Are you good for
Let's go.
Lightning round? All right. So what's something about you that often surprises people?
So I didn't have a sip of alcohol until I was 26, and I went to ASU, which is a big party school. And I still went to parties, and I still had a good time, and everyone was shocked that I never drank at any of the parties. And then I'm also just very strict. Like, I don't watch TV. So those are, I guess, 2. I double dipped on that question, but TV and no alcohol until I was 26.
This is why you and I get along so well, because mine was 25, and I don't watch TV either. So
let's go.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing. More important things to do with our time. All right, next question. What is your favorite thing about the work that you do?
Oh man, the most exciting clients are the ones that come to us with a complex puzzle that they've been trying to solve for maybe years, maybe even decades, and us finding that through line to connect different aspects of who they are that seemingly could never be connected. So it's like that breakthrough, that aha, that breakthrough that allows someone to connect multiple aspects of who they are and what they do in a very concise and simple way. So that's my
amazing.
favorite thing. Is like
that someone else's self-discovery is like what lights you up. That's really amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it's like there's these complex puzzles where there's no way these can be solved, and we're like, hold my beer, we're gonna solve it.
we got you, right?
Hold my water.
Right. Very good. All right, next question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's a good one. I definitely subscribe to that one. All right, last question. Who is inspiring you right now? What podcast are you listening to, or what's the best book that you've read recently?
So that's actually a difficult question for this season of my life. I believe I said this just a couple minutes ago. For the longest time, I was always searching for information outside of myself and how to know more, how to do more, how to build a new skill set. And so this season of my life, I've actually been tuning out a lot of those things and just doing what I know and really tuning into my connection with God and walking in my path and my purpose and stepping out, getting outside my comfort zone, making investments into my business, making investments into me becoming a better version of myself to have a bigger impact. I am reading one book, I actually have it right here. It's called And David Was Perceived King. And it's all about identity. It says identity the key to your destiny. And so I believe that's this book is something that's deeply resonated with me. I'm only 3 chapters in, but it's really profound. I recommend it already. And that's really what it takes to step into this next level of leadership, is like really reinforcing your identity. And how do you do that? So it's a great book. I would highly recommend it.
I love that. So it's the you of yesterday that's inspiring you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Mike, I can't thank you enough for joining me on this week's episode of Worth Your Salt.
Thanks so much for having me.
I also want to thank you, Salt Nation. If you have a great success story, I'd love to talk with you and share your story. So tell us why you're worth your salt by emailing us at grow@saltmarketing.co. Of course, be sure to subscribe to Worth Your Salt so you never miss an episode. Finally, leave us a review or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's all for this episode of Worth Your Salt. Be sure to join me again next time. In the meantime, let's get out there and shake things up. That was fun.
Damn, that was awesome.